The Villain, Chapter 1, Commander Power. You see, kid, that fight I had in the Bank of the United World was truly unforgettable. After that night, everyone remembered who I was. Arthur Chase was your true all-American male. Always a looker, he maintained it even as he closed in on 50 years. His sharp blue eyes were still as sharp as ever. His hair was cut finely, slicked back, his brown hair shined. Wearing his finest suit, success always radiated from Commander Power. A noticeable limp, a burn that ran down his upper chest, and a small scar were reminders of his past as Commander Power. Long past his tenure as the city's max crusader, Arthur now owns a series of chain diners. His intellect and business made him wealthy, far more than his time as Commander Power. Today he was at a diner that was closest to his home. It was also a diner that his nephew worked as a waiter. That fight with Sergeant Hex and the Raven was tough, but it was nothing short of perfection. Let me tell you something, those were the days that heroes were heroes and villains were villains, beamed Arthur. His nephew, Michael, looked at him, completely bored. I know, Uncle Arthur. This is the one where you rode off to the sunset on your high horse, right? Your most memorable fight to date. Arthur stood there sort of hurt. Was his memory fading or was he too happy living in the past? That's right, kid, I forget. Don't worry about it, Mike. I'll let you keep working. Just do me a favor and tell your old man that he still owes me a beer from last week's game, alright? Michael answered, Not a problem, Commander. Arthur grumbled on his way out. He thought to himself that this generation did not know what it was to be in the line of fire. He remembers thinking what it took to get up and don the suit that the world knew him as, and his nephew does not care. There was a time that people like him were instantly recognized, and he was world-renowned, and yet his nephew did not care. Arthur continued to walk to his car as he passed by a lot. A homeless man that was coming out of a shift-make box of a home caught his attention. You know what? I should help this guy out. It looks like he could use some help. Arthur began to walk towards him. Yo, guy! Yelled at Arthur. Chapter 2, Sergeant Hex. Ronald woke up hungry. Unfortunately, this was routine. Though homeless, Ronald West had a routine every single time he woke up. Today was no different, as hunger is the most familiar thing with him. His morning trek began from where his box of a home is to the nearest dumpster site. Looking up at the sun, he put together that it must be a little past 8 o'clock in the morning, which means that the first breakfast rush is over. The lot he resided was close to plenty of restaurants, but the best scraps always came from the masked diner. As he made his way towards the back of the diner, he looked around and saw the usual crowd that resided under park benches, under bridges, covered in yesterday's newspapers. The cringe-worthy stench was bearable only because he had lived his lifestyle for 3 years, so, like all things, he got used to it. In the dumpster, he found some half-eaten pancakes, a bit of eggs, and the remainder of a to-go coffee cup. The to-go coffee cup has been the brightest spot in the past 2 months. Ronald, formerly known as Sergeant Hex, fell upon the spell the day that he killed Renegade. Renegade, a true up-and-comer, was assisting Sergeant Hex on this particular night. They convoluted this plan, and unfortunately, things went awry. Sergeant Hex attempted to hit the one who opposed him with his signature dark matter bomb, but missed. Renegade was thrown in front of it, hit him square in the chest, and fell from the 37th floor building to his death. Due to special circumstances, he was tried for murder, but was only given manslaughter and 5 years in jail. Once he was out, his life went out of control. His fiancée left him while pregnant with their first child. He relied on heavy drinking to cope with what his life had become. To cope with killing 21-year-old Renegade. To cope that his ultimate plan, the reason he had become Sergeant Hex, came to an abrupt halt. He did not age well. The drinking expanded his gut, though everything else lost mass due to a lack of proper nutrition. His hair was matted, dirty, and he was balding rather quickly. His beard was unkempt. He wore clothes that he found along the way, anything close that would fit his unproportioned body. Ronald rushed back to his lot to eat his breakfast. His box contained the essential blanket, newspaper clippings, and a lone photo of the family that he left behind. His breakfast was over and he decided to walk towards the park, but noticed that there were several holes in his coat. He opted to look for one in the community garbage and he heard someone yell towards him, "Yo, guy!" Chapter 3, Reunion. "Yo, guy!" yelled at Arthur. Ronald was taken back. Walking towards him was a sharp-dressed man reaching towards his back pocket. Apart from the homeless crowd, no one of this man's supposed stature would ever speak to him. "What do you want?" asked Ronald rather suspiciously. "Listen, it looks like you need some help. Here, do me a favor and take this $50 bill. I hope it helps you out in the long run." Arthur looked down and noticed that this homeless man was wearing a symbol on his t-shirt from his old nemesis, Sergeant Hex. "Hey, wait a minute. I know that symbol. That's Sergeant Hex's old sigil. Boy, I really haven't seen that in a while." Arthur was truly surprised anyone would be wearing that shirt. "Well, it's pretty easy to get when you are the living, breathing, homeless version of Sergeant Hex," replied Ronald. This was the first time anyone has recognized a shirt he's worn for years. "Why the hell do you care?" Arthur let out a gasp. "Hex? Oh, I'm surprised you don't recognize me. It's me, Commander Power." In a flash, everything of the previous life that Ronald lived came back to haunt him. He was awestruck. "Oh man, Commander Power, huh? Man, we used to duke it out pretty hard. You used to create those big electrical blasts. You caught me a few times with those." Ronald reminisced of times that they fought. He remembers him as a young go-getter and fended him off easily at first. He recalls their battle of the Bank of the United World, a battle that is still talked about to this day, a battle that they both narrowly escaped, but it was Hex who truly came out on top. "Yeah, that's me all right," laughed Arthur. "We did hit each other pretty hard. Still got a limp from the fight at the bank." "Christ, Commander, that's one fight I still haven't forgotten." "Well, wait, say, you're not here to fight me now, are you?" "Oh, no, replied Commander Power. "Those days are long gone. Had a pretty serious back surgery done to me, and I've called it quits since. I was taken care of by the best doctors throughout the nation. No more battles for me. I began on constructing a diner, and it blew up to a big success. I own a few diners now, just like the one right around the bend from here." Arthur was beaming at this point. He turned his attention to Ron, who was still scavenging for a new coat. "Yeah, it seems like you've fallen on some tough times yourself, X. What's the word on you?" Right when those words left his mouth, two punks decided to approach Commander Power and Sergeant Hex. "Hey, you old fucks, you holding on to any cash?" The two punks were holding up what looked like 5-inch blades. They steadily walked towards the two. Sergeant Hex yelled back at them, "Listen, if I were you, I'd walk away right now. I don't want to knock your teeth out, alright?" There was a strange surge inside of Hex. "Yo, Travis, I think this smelly piece of shit wants to fight. Listen here, man, if you don't want to get sliced, then shut the f—" Suddenly, Commander Power stepped up, glowing. There was an aura that surrounded him. The first jolt of electricity ran from his hands and around his body, and then more. His whole body shined a bright blue, blinding Hex and the two punks. There was a sudden clasp, and now his hands became power beams, shooting electricity from every other way. He roared, "Why don't you leave here right now before someone really gets hurt?" Sergeant Hex has never seen anyone run faster than these two punks did. He was ashamed he couldn't conjure the power to scare these boys off. It was a mental block. His powers were inaccessible. "Oh, well, that was pretty fun. Really haven't done that in a while," said Commander Power. Yeah, you were pretty impressive," replied Sergeant Hex. "Well, that's all I can really muster up at this point. Just a bit of pyrotechnics to scare them off. Now, where were we? Oh, that's right. You. It seems like you've fallen on some tough times." Commander Power was truly curious. "Well, I'm surviving, if you can call it that. Eating out of a dumpster wasn't the ideal lifestyle, but nonetheless, this is where I am. Funny, I shouldn't be complaining, but your pancakes at the mass diner suck. I've been living this life for a while already. This is what I've become." "Where are you living?" asked Commander Power. See that box? That's my humble abode. Sergeant Hex, pointing to a rather large box held up with tape and a hole cut to look like a door. There were newspaper clippings, noticeably about Sergeant Hex in his heyday. Ah, geez, Hex, what happened? How'd you come to this? Commander Power looked rather disappointed. Look, I don't want to be here, alright? It just all went to hell. I killed him, Commander. Sergeant Hex continued to tell the story of the young man he killed, the renegade. Commander Power listened, and his heart broke after every line. Commander Power finally answered, after a few seconds of dead silence. Listen, Hex, this business is supposed to be rough, and that kid did not know his backside from a hole in the ground, but, yes, he didn't deserve to die. Here, Hex, let me give you some help. Commander took his wallet out from his suit jacket. Sergeant Hex looked at his former rival. Thanks, man, but I can't take your money. We have history. We fought too many times for me to take your money. Let me at least keep my pride. Commander Power placed his wallet back. I mean, you know what? I guess I understand. Commander Power looked at Sergeant Hex reluctantly. Well, I've got to run. I should be getting home. Maybe I'll see you again. You take care of yourself, alright, Sergeant? Yeah, Commander. It was nice seeing a familiar face. Don't be a stranger, alright? Hex began to walk towards the other side of the lot. Chapter 4. Deal. Commander Power wasn't happy with the fact that he was not able to help. I just can't leave him like this. Commander turned back and screamed over to Hex. Hey, Hex! Hex again was caught by surprise. What's up, Commander? Did you forget something? Commander responded, well, you can kind of say that. Listen, I'm in the middle of my second divorce, and I've got this huge house to myself. Hex looked at him rather confused. What's your point? My point is that I believe you should stay over, at least until you can get back on your feet. I could use the company, and I can help you out a lot by looking for a job. Commander Power finally thought this was heading his way. Sergeant Hex was a bit mystified at the offer. Look, Commander, I appreciate it, but I can carry my own weight, alright? I've reaped what I've sowed. And at this point, if it gets any uglier, I can always just rob a bank and get thrown back into the joint, just like before. A decent shower and 3 meals a day. Not bad, huh? Commander's voice started to rise, close to scolding, something Commander Power was known for. Now, Hex, I'm telling you that I will not take no for an answer. You'll room with me for a month, maybe 2. I can get you a job in one of the diners, and we'll go from there. This is no way to live. I mean, heck, at the end of the day, it'll be like you're doing me a favor. Hex was really hesitant. He was sweating, trembling. As his luck finally turned around, can he lay to rest the constant darkness that loomed over him for years? Commander, wouldn't it be weird seeing our differences in the past? I try to end your reign on a nightly basis. Commander responded, listen, that was a long time ago. Nowadays, we're just a pair of old guys who share some history. So what do you say, Hex? Hex finally let up. You know what? For a solid month, I'll do it. But I don't want you to mother me, alright? But if you're willing to help, why not? Commander radiated with glee. Excellent, you got it. We'll talk about it later tonight, Hex, but I'm happy you took my offer. Let's get going. I think I have some old clothes that you can fit in the meantime. They shook hands and both were pleased with the deal they struck. Hex thought that this was truly turning a new leaf. Maybe he thought that this was finally time to get rid of the Sergeant Hex persona that he once was and become a working man, what Ronald West was meant to be. And the end of it all, he was truly a good man. Hey, what about my newspaper clippings? Mind if I get them right quick? Don't worry about it. I'm sure I have some old scrapbooks that you'll be able to pull some of your old stuff out of. Remind me when we get to the house. Commander Power continued. Plus, I think that maybe we have to let go of the past sometimes, so we can hold on to our lives. Sergeant Hex's box contained the essential blanket, newspaper clippings, and a lone photo of the family that he left behind. His favorite newspaper clip was of the notorious battle of him and Commander Power at the Bank of the United World. It read, "Supervillain Commander Power attempts to rob bank. Plan foiled by local superhero, Sergeant Hex."